Hi everybody, I'm Bia, and welcome back to Cardeck Radio for Teens. For those of you who don't know, Cardeck Radio for Teens is a place where teens can come together with other teens to learn about Spiritist teachings and topics in a way that makes more sense to us and is more relatable to us as teenagers in today's society. For years now, we've been reading through the Spirits book together, page by page, question by question, word by word, to go through the Spirits book and to try and understand it better. And of course we're not going to understand it perfectly. It's going to take reading it over and over many times, but reading it one time through is giving us a good basic foundation to start off of and to learn. So even though we are becoming closer to the end of the book, we have to keep in mind that the Spirits book isn't a book you can just read once. You have to read it over and over and over again. So we have to continue reading it, and we'll continue to learn things, and then we'll read other things that will relate to things that we've learned about here. So this is just giving us a good basis so that we can learn off of that and grow off of that information that we already know, rather through the Spirits book or through other books. So now we finally made it to the fourth part in the Spirits book. So the Spirits book is broken up into 4 parts, and this one, the last part, is hope and consolation. So we talked a lot about the spiritual world, spirits on earth, we've talked about the moral laws, but now we're talking about hope and consolation. And there's only 2 chapters in this section, and the first chapter is earthly joys and sorrows, and chapter 2 is future joys and sorrows. So we're going to start off with earthly joys and sorrows. And the first section in this chapter is relative happiness and unhappiness. Question 920. Can human beings enjoy perfect happiness on earth? So is perfect happiness achievable on earth? And the Spirits answered, no, because corporeal life has been appointed to them, either as a trial or as an atonement. People must reduce their misfortunes themselves and make their lives as happy as possible while on earth. So here they're saying, so no, we can't achieve perfect happiness on earth because we came to the earth to go through trials, and we came for atonement. We came to make up for things that we did wrong, to go through new trials, to become more perfect. So we can't have perfect happiness because obviously there's going to be some bumps along the way, and obviously we're not perfect yet. So we can't have perfect happiness, but we should reduce the things that we do wrong so that we can become closer to that happiness. So we should work on not making the same mistakes, or learning from our mistakes, other people's mistakes, doing the best we can do so that we're truly evolving and growing, and that we do reach some level of happiness, as happy as we can be on earth. But we know that we're not perfect yet, so we're not going to get that perfect happiness, that complete happiness. But we can be happy by doing all the things that we've learned about, especially with the moral laws, and living from the spirit world to the corporeal world. Question 921. We understand that human beings will be happy on earth when the human race has been transformed. Meanwhile, can people ensure a moderate amount of happiness for themselves? So here they're saying, okay, so we get it. So we're not going to have perfect happiness until the human race is transformed, until the human race as a whole is a more evolved group of people and can reach that perfect happiness. We're not going to have perfect happiness. But they're saying, can we get a moderate level of happiness, some type of happiness? And the Spirits answered, human beings are often the architect of their own unhappiness. If they obey God's laws, they spare themselves much sorrow and also secure all the happiness corresponding with the human condition. So what they're saying here is that a lot of our unhappiness, that comes from ourselves, from our own mistakes that we made, our own decisions, things that we did ourselves is where we get our unhappiness. So if we work on doing the right thing and not making these mistakes, then we'll get rid of some of that unhappiness we're causing, and we will feel happy, and we will have a moderate amount of happiness. But that's up to us. It's not that God's saying, oh, you're going to be unhappy on earth. No, it's up to us and what we're going through and what we do wrong and what we're fixing and what trials we're going through. So it's up to us to change how happy we are. So we need to, if we want to be happy, we need to work hard to try and evolve and to try and be better people. And even still, we're not going to get that perfect happiness because we're still imperfect in this human condition. but we will have a decent amount of happiness if we're practicing the right things and following God's laws. Then they continue. People who are positive about their future destinies view their physical life as a temporary station. It is for them a momentary stopover at an awful hotel. They easily find solace for the fleeting frustrations of their journey in the fact that it is bringing them to a new and happier position, which will be all the more favorable in proportion to the preparation they have made. So what they're saying is that here, a lot of people, it's like you're going somewhere. So we're going to the perfect world, right? Or to this perfect spirit world, to the spirit world. We're going there. Now this life here, it's just like a little stop. And the hotel is not that great. But you have to stay here because there's nowhere else to go. So you're just stopped at this hotel, but it's not about trying to make yourself as happy as you can be now, but knowing that, oh, after I get through this, if I keep doing the right thing, if I keep following God's laws, if I get through this, then we'll move on tomorrow and we'll go to the better place. And then get all that happiness. So it's like thinking about this as like a temporary stop and thinking about our future instead of just right now. And then they continue. In this life, we are punished for violating the laws of corporeal existence, via the suffering that is a consequence of these violations, and by the suffering that results from our own excesses. When we trace human troubles back to their origins, we find that the overwhelming majority of the rest of an initial deviation from the right path. This deviation forces us to enter a wrong path, and each subsequent step brings us more deep into misfortune. So if we think about here on earth, people, if you break the law, you're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna pay for what you did. So in that you're gonna be punished for what you did. So it's the same thing in the spirit world. A lot of the misfortunes we have, it's because we did something wrong, and now we have to make up for it, or now we have to suffer the consequences because we made that mistake. We did something wrong. And even if it was an accident, you don't go to the police and say, oh, it was an accident. No, you still have to pay the consequences, and you still have to go through that punishment and through those repercussions. Even if, oh, maybe it was an accident, maybe you didn't mean it, we still have to go through it and learn from that and make sure that doesn't happen again. So it's the same thing that a lot of times when we're going through all the time, when we are going to misfortune, it's not because, oh, like, God's just punishing me. No, it's because we did something wrong. We deviated from the right path, and now we made some mistake, and now we have to repay for that. Question 922. Earthly happiness is relative to each person's position, so that what suffices for the happiness of one can be the cause of misfortune for another. Is there a common standard of happiness for everyone? So here they're saying how on earth our happiness comes from different things, and what might be something great for you and makes you happy might not make someone else happy. Like someone might love money and do expensive things to be happy, but someone else who doesn't have as much money, they are happy from being with their family or something of that nature. So people have different forms of happiness. And like I said, so maybe like one cause of happiness for one person might be a cause of misfortune for the other. So they're saying, so what is the common standard of happiness if we can have different things that make us happy? And the spirits answered, with regard to material life, it is the possession of what is necessary for survival. With regards to the moral life, it is the possession of good conscience and the belief in a future life. So, in material life, like where we, like right now, like us, it's about having what's necessary for survival. So not having excessive things, but being happy with the things you need to survive, and that's it. Not going crazy. And also, with moral life, it's about following all of God's laws and your good conscience, and believing in the future life, and believing, oh, after this, there's going to be something better if I'm doing good, if I'm following the rules. So, those are the basics of what make us happy, and everything else, it's just material things that we know we shouldn't be keeping as importance because we're not going to have that. This is just like a little, like they said, this is like a little short break, a little stop at a hotel, but we're not going to have that physical hotel forever. So we need to worry about the things that we truly need and our conscious and our beliefs instead. Question 923. Is it true that a luxury for one becomes a necessity for another, and vice versa, depending on circumstantial differences? So something that might be a luxury for one person becomes a necessity for another, and the opposite. So maybe someone who doesn't have a lot of money, when they get a little extra money, that's a luxury for them. But maybe someone who has a lot of money, if they don't have that much money, they're gonna lose all their things that they have. So it might be, so it's just like something that is necessary, they think is necessary for them. So they're saying, so depending on different circumstances, do we have different necessities? And the spirits answered, yes, according to your material ideas, prejudice, and ambition, and all the absurd notions that you gradually shed as you come to understanding the truth of things. Obviously, people who once earned an income of 5,000 consider themselves very fortunate when that income is reduced to 10,000. In this case, they perceive themselves to be less impressive to others since they can no longer maintain their status. Keeping good horses, employees, and gratifying all their tastes and passions. For them, these deprivations represent a lack of the very necessities of life. However, should we pity them while so many others are dying of cold and starvation and do not even have a warm place to sleep at night? Those who are wise compare themselves to what is below them, never to what is above, unless it is to raise their souls to the infinite. So here they actually said exactly the example we were talking about before. So they're saying, so according to our notion of material things here, it's like if you have a lot of money and then you lose all that money and you're making a salary that's way less, then wow, like to you that's like horrible and you need all that money. But there's people who are living off even less of the less that you're making. And to them, having that much money would be a luxury. So we see right there that there's some things that might be a luxury for another person, might be a really big misfortune for another. And then the last line here is very important. Those who are wise compare themselves to what is below them, never to what is above, unless it is to raise their souls to the infinite. So that's very important because it's always about thinking, if we're always thinking, oh, that person has more than me, that person has this, that person has that, then we'll always be unhappy with what we have because there's always going to be someone that has something different than us, something more than us. So we have to think of, wow, that person doesn't have what I have and I'm so lucky to have that. So we always have to be looking at the people who, not necessarily below us, but might not just have the same things as we do. And think about how lucky we are that we have that. And the only time we should look above is if we're trying to really like perfect ourselves and follow God and the infinite. But besides that, we shouldn't be trying to chase these people who are above us and just trying to get everything that they have. Question 924. Misfortune can strike anyone, regardless of behavior, even for the most upright. Is there a way to protect ourselves from misfortune? So here they're saying, so misfortune hits everyone. No matter if you're the best person or the worst person, misfortune's going to hit you. So they're saying, is there a way to protect ourselves from this? And the spirits answered, such misfortune must be borne with resignation and without defiance in order to progress. However, you may always find solace in the hope of a happier future, provided you to do what is needed to reach it. So, misfortune, they said, it has to happen. It's for us to progress. It has to happen because we know that these misfortunes are trials and we know that they're atonement. So we know that there's a reason on this misfortune. It's not just misfortune. But we can get through those misfortunes better if we are thinking not about, oh my God, this misfortune's the end of my life, but thinking, okay, there's going to be so much after this. I'm learning this and try and truly learn from it and look into the future and say, okay, if I go through this now, in the future, I won't have to go through this and then I'll be able to reach more of my happiness as I'm evolving. So we can't just skip over these misfortunes, but we can change our attitude so that we view them in a better way, so that they're not as misfortunate, or we can get through. They are troublesome, and they're a little bit of work for us to deal with, but we can get through them. Question 925. Why does God so often bestow the gift of fortune on people who do not appear to deserve it? So, how come people who do have fortune, maybe people who have money or have good luck, how come they don't even look like they deserve it, and they have all this fortune? And the spirits answered, wealth appears to be a favor to people who only see the present, but you must remember that fortune is often a more dangerous trial than poverty. So, if we're only thinking about the material life, then we look at people who are rich and we say, wow, they have everything, that's so easy for them, they're so lucky. But when we're looking at the bigger picture, going through wealth and going through being fortunate is a lot more of a trial than going through poverty. Because a lot of people, when they have all that money, it gets to their head and they can't deal with it. So having a big fortune is more dangerous than poverty. So although it might seem like a great fortune, in the long run we can see that, they might really struggle through that and have to go through this more. And then because of their struggles, it's not like, they're going to keep being rich until they learn to get through it. No, they're gonna, because of that, they might make a lot of mistakes that they have to make up for. So it's a very dangerous trial. So when we're looking at the material world, we're like, they're so lucky. But if we have to look at the big picture and say, they're gonna go through a lot of things, and maybe we can learn from their mistakes, but we don't want to make those mistakes ourselves. Question 926. Does civilization, by creating new wants, become the source of new afflictions? So civilization creates new things that we want. So does it become the source of the new afflictions that we have? Because just like our society creates phones, and now they create the latest phone. So now it's everyone's new want. Everyone's new want is this latest phone. So does it become the source of our new afflictions? And the spirits answered, the problems of your world are proportional to the artificial wants that you created for yourself. People who are able to set limits on their desires and see what is above them without feeling envy spare themselves many disappointments. The richest person is the one who is with the fewest needs. So here they're saying we can't just be blaming society and civilization, because those things are happening in society and civilization because we want them. Because think about it, a new phone. They wouldn't keep making new phones if people didn't want them. People want this new, cool, latest phone. So they keep making them, but that's because of our own needs and our own wants to have that. So the people who can set limits on what they desire and not feel bad about it, so say, okay, I don't need the latest phone. But then when everyone gets the latest phone, they're still like, okay, I don't need it. So those people that are setting limits to themselves are going to spare themselves a lot of disappointments, because we know those are material things and those are not the most important things that we should be focusing on. And then the last line they say here is really important. It says, the richest person is the one with the fewest needs. So the one with the fewest needs, the fewest wants, having everything, those are going to be the ones who are the richest in the necessity things that they need, like their good morals and their good intelligence to help them evolve and move and progress. So we have to remember that these material things are only here for such a short period of time, and we have to focus on what truly does matter. And then it continues, you envy the pleasure of those who appear to be favored by fortune, but do you know what is in store for many of them? If they use their wealth only for themselves, they are selfish, and a miserable fortune awaits them. Instead of feeling envy, you should feel pity for them. God sometimes allows the wicked to prosper, but you should not envy their prosperity, because they will pay for it with bitter tears. When a righteous person experiences the trials of misfortune, they reap rich rewards if bearing them with courage. Remember Jesus' words, Bless all those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. So here again, they're saying that these people who might seem like they have everything, if they're not using it well, so if they have all these things, but they're keeping it to themselves, then they're being selfish, and now they're going to have to go through many trials and many atonements to learn how to not be selfish and to make up for the selfishness that they went through. So they're going to have a misfortune coming their way. And so instead of feeling jealous of them, we should pity them. We should just feel like, oh, they're going to have to go through many things if they don't use that well. So sometimes it says, sometimes God allows the wicked to prosper. So sometimes we say, oh, why would that person have all this money? Why would that person have everything? But they're going to learn from that situation eventually. So it's not just, oh, they're getting by easy. They're going to experience misfortunes, and they're going to have to learn from those and grow from those. So, and then they say here, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. So we just have to tackle our problems. We might not have everything, but we should just tackle our problems and use what we have with courage and to the best of our abilities. And then we will be rewarded. If we're trying, eventually we will get there. Question 927. The superfluous is certainly not indispensable to happiness, but this is not true with regard to the necessity of life. So isn't the misfortune of those who are deprived for them real? So here they're saying, okay, so the superfluous, all this extra stuff, it's not necessary. So clearly it's not going to actually make you happy, and the misfortunes it's going to bring, it's because, okay, that wasn't necessary. But what about people who are only with the necessities of life, and they still have misfortunes? So are they real, these misfortunes that they're having? So the spirits answered, a person is truly unfortunate only when deprived of what is necessary for survival and physical health. If this deprivation is the result of their own behavior, they have only themselves to blame. If it is the fault of others, serious accountability lies with those who have caused it. So here what they're saying is that, of course, we have to think that truly unfortunate is when they are deprived of the actual necessities, the necessary things for survival and physical health. So when those things, that's a true misfortune. And if they got to that position because of their own faults and their own mistakes along the way, then they have no one to blame but themselves for that misfortune that they're going through. If it's the fault of others that they're in that situation, then those people will have serious consequences based off that. So maybe like parents who let their children get into those situations on purpose, then they're going to have serious accountability and responsibility to make up for those mistakes and those wrongdoings that happened. Question 928. By our natural aptitudes, God shows each of us our special vocation in this world. Are many of the problems of life attributed to failure to follow that vocation? So before coming and incarnating, we kind of have a plan of what we're going to do. Okay, you're going to come and you're going to do this, and we're going to try and do this and this and this. So are our misfortunes the consequence of not following this vocation? So the problems that happen, is it because we're off the path of what we're supposed to be doing? And the spirits answered, this is true. Parents, through pride or greed, often force their children to deviate from the path set for them by nature, but they will be held responsible for the results of this misdirection. So, like they're saying, so these children, we have a path that we should be following. And a lot of times, parents can deviate and can shift that child off the path, and set them in a different direction that was meant for them. But the parents will be responsible for misguiding the children, putting them in the wrong direction. And the children, of course, will learn and get back on the right path that they were supposed to. And then there's a second part to this question, and it says, do you approve of the son of a well-regarded individual becoming a shoemaker, for instance, if he wasn't endowed with the natural talent for it? So here they're saying, so what if there's this celebrity or this well-regarded person, and they have this son, and the son, he wants to be a shoemaker because he's really talented for it. So is that what he should do? Should he become a shoemaker because that's what he's talented in it, or should he just go into something for the money or follow his family's roots or something. And the spirits answered, "You must not waste time on absurd suggestions and exaggerations. Civilization has its necessities. Why would the son of a man holding high position become a shoemaker if he were able to do something more important? Such an individual must always make himself useful according to his faculties, without contradicting common sense. For instance, if he does not have the aptitude to be a good lawyer, he might be a good engineer, mechanic, or any other profession." So what they're saying here is that we don't have to be drastic either. So it's not like, oh, since I don't want to be like just following my family or doing something like that, he doesn't have to become a shoemaker. But maybe if his dad's a lawyer, he doesn't have to follow that lawyer part. But maybe if they have money for him to go to college and become an engineer, become a doctor, he can do that instead. So he doesn't need to just be like, oh, I'm going to become a shoemaker. We also don't need to be drastic. We need to do what is common sense, and maybe not follow the parents' lead exactly if that's not something he's interested in, but maybe he'll be a great doctor and help lots of people. So we shouldn't just resort to, oh, okay, just go be a shoemaker. And then Allan Kardec puts his own comment in, and he says, "Assuming a position outside one's intellectual scope is one of the most frequent causes of failure and disappointment. Lack of aptitude for the career one has set out to follow is nerve-ending source of disappointment. Often pride prevents people who fail in one career to seek a humbler vocation. They are frequently tempted to commit suicide in order to escape what they view as humiliation. If a sound moral education elevates them above this stupid prejudice of pride, they are never at a loss to earn a living." So here this is really important because I think a lot of us go through that today, especially as teenagers. So here it says, assuming a position outside of one's intellectual scope is the most frequent cause for failure and disappointment. So if you go into it saying, oh, I'm not smart enough to be in that math class, or I'm not smart enough to do this, then we're gonna go in with that wrong mindset, and then we're gonna fail, and then we're gonna be disappointed. So we have to stop thinking like, oh, that person's not smart enough, I'm not smart enough for this job. No, if we are focused and we're dedicated, we can do that. We can become whatever we want to become if we put in the effort. Or say maybe you think, oh, I want to become a doctor and I really want to do this, but then along the way you think, wow, you know what, I don't really love this and I want to do something else. But a doctor seems a lot fancier and a lot cooler. That's fine to do something else. Don't worry about going to something that might seem less, because it's about what we can do. And of course you can push yourself to be a doctor, but if that's not what you want to do, then we should follow that path that you do want to do and be the best at that instead. And so we need to get rid of this just pride of being the best person and just do the best for ourselves and not worry about this failure that's coming, because we can push through and we can accomplish great things if we just put in effort. So that's where we'll leave off for today. But before we leave off, I'd like to read our message from the Daily Book of Positive Quotations by Linda Picone for today's date, September 25th. Knowledge versus wisdom. Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. Knowing things is not the same as being wise. Knowledge is the accumulation of facts and information. Wisdom is knowledge tempered by experience and perspective. We can acquire knowledge from others. Becoming wise is the journey that we must travel on our own. I want to learn as much as I can from every possible source. This is what helps me be smarter and more knowledgeable. But however knowledgeable I may become, there is no shortcut to becoming wise, and I have to live and experience success and failure day by day. If at all you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to email me at kardecradioforteens@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you right away. I'm Bia, and this has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening. This has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.